John D. Healy back to you again with another podcast today. I got into podcasting because I produced a book. My friend Tony McGurney was born in 1941. It's on Amazon. It's also on audio. Sponsors Literary Van Lines, moving company in New York City. They've been around longer than Jeopardy. They're getting extra busy for the summer. So do book in advance. It's always good to get book in advance. And you get your estimates, and they do move pianos. So shout out today for my dentist, Aaron Smith. They're here on York Avenue, and they are doing a lot of work on me. I've been very happy with them so far. It's not easy to give a shout out to a dentist, but in this case, they're really excellent. And they are on 1737 York Avenue, phone number 212-534-3020. And Dr. Smith, who's the guy who's taking care of me. 2 more visits, and then I will look beautiful. Shout out to the Irish Examiner USA, newspaper here in New York, irishexaminerusa.com. Paddy McCarthy. This week, a lot of news. A new singer coming on the scene. Check it out. A new movie coming on the screen on his newspaper. The movie is called I Swear. It's about Tourette's. Fuck, did I say that? Yeah. Now, my guest today, Eric Warren is my guest today. He is blind from birth, so I need the help of my friend Gabby from 270 Ryder Avenue, Studio 3. And Gabby and myself is going to meet with Eric Warren in a few minutes. So it'll be an interesting topic. We had Bonnie on last week with her book, 9.5 Months. She has a book reading coming up soon as well. So give me a minute or two. I have to go and meet Gabby. I have to go and meet Eric Warren. I have to change and look good. Yes, today, John D. Healy here. It's good to talk. Always have a guest on, interesting people with different talents, and today is no exception. His name is Eric Warren. I met him recently in all places in a bar on the Upper East Side. He's been blind since birth. He was born, I believe, in Louisiana, but I'm going to let him tell me about that. Very talented. We'll talk about his blindness and his music. Eric, you're welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So tell us, where were you born?
Well, actually, I was born on Maxwell Air Force Base. My dad was a doctor.
Okay.
He was serving in the Air Force because he didn't want to be drafted and have to go to Korea, which at the time, in 1951, was during the Korean War.
Okay.
So he was a doctor in the Air Force, and he stayed in for his 2-year allotment.
Okay.
And after that, we moved to Oklahoma City for a 2-year stint where he studied with a neurosurgeon there.
Okay.
To get better at his craft.
Okay.
And so that was from 1953 to 1955.
Okay.
And then he decided to move the family back to New Orleans, where he was from, and his parents were living. So that's what we did.
Okay.
And
what about schooling at that age? You were only young.
Well,
boy.
I was 4, 5 years old. I did go to public school for the first 6 years of my schooling. And then when I was 12, I went to a school for the blind in Boston, and stayed there about 4 years. And then after that, my parents and my grandfather felt that I could get a better education at a school for regular kids.
Okay, interesting.
And so I went to the Stockbridge School in West Stockbridge, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And I did 4 years there. And then I went to Alfred University. I was there for 6 weeks.
What happened there?
What happened there? Well, I didn't really want to be there in the first place. So I left. My parents didn't know where I was for a few months.
All right.
And
bit of a renegade.
I wound up in North Carolina, played with a band that never really went anywhere. And then my grandfather was still alive, living in New York.
Okay.
So I moved to New York permanently after 4 months in North Carolina, because I realized I needed to be where
the action
was. That's right.
You.
Yeah.
That's what I say. When you leave New York City, you're going nowhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So tell us more, like when you were 4 years old, then you obviously had to learn Braille, I guess.
Well, yeah, I had to learn how to write Braille, how to read Braille.
Yeah.
I was 5, almost 6,
Okay.
when I went to a school that had, I think, 5 other blind kids around the same age as me. And we had a teacher that taught Braille and other, activities and things.
Of course.
Yeah.
Braille was invented by
Louis Braille.
Louis Braille, you're correct.
Yeah.
A French guy.
Yes.
And I know people that have their sight can learn Braille too. The alphabet is easier. Am I right or wrong, or does it matter?
Say that again.
The alphabet.
Yeah.
Like the ABC.
Yeah.
It's easy for you because you're proficient in it, but for someone like me to learn Braille.
Well, what you got to remember one thing. As a well, not print, but as a way to read and write. A Braille book is much larger than a print book.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
so what people did, they invented contractions so that the Braille reading and writing would be shorter.
Shorter, okay.
And D was do.
Okay.
F by now these are letters by themselves.
Okay.
F was from.
Okay.
G was go. So all these short words.
Okay. So some of that came with the modern telephone, like the young kids abbreviate everything, like LMK, let me know, see you later, and stuff like that.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Okay.
But I would have no way of knowing that.
Laughing my ass off is another one. I don't know too much either, but when I get them, I have to ask someone else to translate them.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So now you're back in New York with your grandfather and your.
Yeah, I wound up finally getting. I lived in the 92nd Street Y for a little while until I got my own apartment.
Nice.
And I've been here ever since.
And how many years did you have with your grandfather? He seems to be an influence.
Yeah. Well, now let's see. He died in 1978.
Okay.
He was in his mid-80s, I believe.
Okay. Pretty good.
And so I've had, from 72, when I moved here, I had all that time.
Nice, that's good though.
With him, and I used to see him, of course, when he'd come down to visit my parents and I.
Okay.
He was my mother's father.
Okay.
And
was your mother an educator as well, or?
Well, she taught college.
Okay.
She taught Latin and Greek.
Okay.
Ancient Greek, I believe.
I like that. I studied Latin for 1 year. It's an interesting language.
I guess so.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the root of all the languages.
That's what they say.
Laudo, laudas, laudamus. That means I love Gabby, I love you, and I love myself. In Latin.
All right.
Okay. So let's pick up from your grandfather's time. Then the music had to come somewhere.
Well, the music, my parents bought me a standard piano. I think it was a Spinet.
Mm-hmm.
And at 7, I started taking piano lessons. Classical music, of course. I had to be, the prim and proper.
Of course.
And but also around the time, I didn't like rock and roll until the Beatles came out and Peter, Paul, and Mary were on the scene. I just, when I was a kid, although I do remember, this is interesting, I do remember my grandparents had a chauffeur.
Nice.
And he he used to drive me, or I'd go for a ride in his car, in their car rather.
Okay.
And he put on a black radio station. And that was around the time that James Brown came out.
Oh, yeah.
1957, 58.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And so I remember listening to that, and it's funny, it didn't transfer much on the piano to my hearing, although I could play, you know, C.
Okay. Interesting. I can see the James Brown influence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very much so.
Very much so, is right.
And later, Hendrix, of course, had this, you know,
Anyway, it's right. My favorite band, one of them, I've many, I love music, is Bono in U2. And his guitar player is called The Edge. And I'll come to that word in a minute. The Edge is known as one of the best instrumental guitar players in the world. You composed music called Velvet Edge, is that right?
well, that's one of the songs that was on my CD.
Okay. Tell us about the CD song.
About the CD song?
Well, all of the songs, maybe.
Well, it was just a collection of songs. Some of them I wrote. I actually put 4 versions of cover songs.
Cover songs are good. I've produced some albums myself, and I think the reason cover songs work is the audience are familiar with it.
People know them.
They know them, yeah.
Yeah, so my only CD is I have 4 cover songs.
Okay.
On the CD. I have a Beatles song.
Okay. Got it.
You know, a Beatles song.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Classic song.
little improvisations.
Good. So talk about venues maybe that you've played in down the years.
Well, I've played in, I'm thinking about it, a lot of different kinds of venues, as well as 2 jazz festivals.
Okay.
One in New Orleans in 1977, and then one here in, oh my God, what year was that? 2004, I think.
Okay.
And that was fun.
All fun. Music is fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then, you know, I've worked in various places, but the jazz festivals were the most people that I've played for.
Okay, good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The other gigs have been in mostly small places.
Okay.
And I played a couple of times with Elliot Randall from Steely Dan.
Okay.
I'm not going to name drop that much. I also worked with a guy named Emir Deodato.
Okay.
Emir Deodato produced Kool and the Gang.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good.
And, you know, those are just some of the people of note that I've played with.
You didn't play with Bill Clinton. He's more trumpet.
Saxophone.
Saxophone, sorry, you corrected me.
Oh, that's
I love
okay.
to be corrected.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So one other question, getting back to the blind aspect. You never thought of having a dog, no?
I've had 2 seeing eye dogs.
Really?
Yeah.
And
I got my first one when I was 20, I guess.
okay.
And I had her for 10 years, and it got to the point where she couldn't really be my guide dog anymore, so I gave her to a
What
lovely...
happened? You're more blind than you were?
I don't know about that, but I can tell you that...
Well, it's hard work. You have to walk the bitch and you have to feed her.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have a dog. I wouldn't have the patience for a dog.
Well...
And I don't know.
You
maybe-
love them, you know. You don't.
Well, they are
you don't,
loyal,
You
right?
don't look at it as a burden, but I can see where, you know, it's funny because I didn't take her to my shows or people I was playing with.
Okay.
Shows. I'd leave her home, but I'd walk her before I left the house, and I'd usually come home at, I don't know, 2:30, 3 in the morning.
Wow.
And I'd take her out again before I went to sleep, so we could both sleep till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock.
Sounds like an ex-girlfriend of mine. What happened to the other dog?
Well, both of them. The second dog I had didn't work out as well. And one of the vets that I was bringing her to treat her or get her special food or something decided to take the dog, which was great.
Okay. That sounds like another one of my girlfriends.
They had
Someone ran away with her, yeah. Maybe you're better off without the dog.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Right. And after my second dog, after things just weren't working out, I decided no more dogs.
Okay.
I'm free.
Like me, I'm free too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
There you go.
There you go. There's a lot to be said for it.
That's right.
So, what are you doing recently? I know the album is out and doing its own thing.
Well, recently I'm retired pretty much at this point.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel the need to do anything. I've proven myself.
Yes, you have.
You know, and
You're content.
yeah, I am. I'm just trying to enjoy life. You know, I'll be 75 in July, and
You look young, actually.
thank you.
Youthful.
Yeah, I appreciate
I'd
that.
say it's the lack of stress.
Yes, I guess so.
We'll give you that.
Yeah.
I'll take the same compliment for myself.
Well, and I'll give you the same compliment. Even though I'm blind as a bat, I can't see.
You're okay. Well, when I met you, you did tell me some funny jokes, but we won't.
Yeah, I don't want to accept the political incorrectness.
Well, I was going to ask you, who do you prefer? Who do you like better, Pope Leo or Donald Trump? Neither
Pope
or
Leo.
both. So I'm going to do the last word with you. What do you think your future looks like? It looks bright. You have a nice apartment. Thank you for inviting myself and Gabby here today.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
was really nice, and thank you for the beers too.
Yeah.
You know my taste in Guinness.
Right.
And I owe you a drink next time I see you in the local bar, the District. The District is one of our favourite pubs, actually.
Yes, it is. Around here, I think it's the nicest bar.
Yeah, we like John and his son. And
oh, yeah, they're great.
The bar staff are excellent and the food is good.
Yeah.
So shout out to them. The Liffey crew go there for their birthday parties and all that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we're regulars in the District.
Good.
And I like Houston too, across the road, in case there's anyone listening there. So got to be politically correct.
Yes.
So I'm thankful to Gabby for coming to do the...
Absolutely.
And if you know of anyone getting married, she can do the video for the wedding.
Okay,
and you can be in the band.
I don't know anybody at this point in my life who's getting married, but I'll be 75 in a couple of months. So people that have gotten married are already married. And if they're divorced and they haven't found anybody, well, that's
That's the way the life is.
That's the way life is, yeah.
We're going to sign off. Will we sign off? I'll give the last word to you, Eric.
Okay, well, it's very nice to have you all in my place. Thank you for interviewing me and
My
Gabby.
Pleasure. Gabby's been on my podcast too. So in my native language, I'm going to say, that was a story. Sin scéal, that means that's a story. Agus be scéala, that means we'll have another story, but maybe at the bar over a beer.
Yeah.
Eric Warren, thank you for being a guest on my podcast. It's good to talk.